Welcome, everyone, to Crime 11. For our very first deep dive, we're going to be looking at unsolved cases. And we're kicking it off with a huge one that's captivated the world for decades. The Zodiac Killer.
Yeah, a case that just won't let you go, you know? Picture it, San Francisco in the late 60s. It's peace, love, and good vibes. And suddenly, there's this shadowy figure terrorizing the Bay Area. And the mystery, it's still unsolved. A true crime legend.
Totally, the stuff of nightmares. But let's step back from the myths for a sec and focus on the facts. What do we actually know about the Zodiac Killer? Where do we even begin with a case this complex?
Well, gotta start with the confirmed victims. The first known victims, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen. Young couple, first date. It was December 20th, 1968. They were parked on Lake Herman Road, a lover's lane, and that's where it happened.
It's just terrifying. Even an innocent date can turn deadly. And this wasn't just random violence.
No, not at all. It was calculated. David was shot point blank in the head. Betty Lou multiple times in the back as she tried to run. And get this, nothing was stolen. So investigators quickly realized this wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This was something much darker.
So from the beginning, there were signs that they were dealing with a different kind of killer.
Yeah.
Did they have any leads early on?
Not many, I'm afraid. The crime scene was pretty clean, no witnesses. So the investigation, well, it hit a wall, and then less than a year later, July 4th, 1969, the Zodiac strikes again. Another young couple, Darlene Farron and Michael Mago, parked in a secluded area in Vallejo.
Another couple, secluded area. Sounds like the Zodiac was going after vulnerable targets.
Yeah, a pattern definitely emerges, and that's the truly scary part of this case. He preyed on people looking for a little privacy, turning those moments into absolute nightmares. Darlene was killed, but Michael, he survived the attack. And that offered a little bit of hope for the investigation.
A survivor, that's got to be crucial. Did Michael remember anything about the attacker?
He did, but it was traumatic, obviously. So his memories, they were pretty fragmented. Vague description, but one detail really stuck out. The attacker wore a strange, hooded costume, almost like an executioner's mask.
Chilling. This hooded figure. It's almost theatrical, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like he's playing a part in a play.
Exactly. And that theatricality, well, it only got more intense with his next move. Just 40 minutes after the attack on Darlene and Michael, a call was made to the Vallejo Police Department.
The killer called the police. That's so bold.
Straight out of a horror movie, right? The caller, he didn't just claim responsibility, he also gave very specific details about the crime, details that only the killer could have known, solidifying that link, you know?
This is where things start to get really strange. Because this wasn't the only time the Zodiac reached out. The letters, right? That's what he's really known for.
You got it. Those letters sent to newspapers, that's what put the Zodiac in the spotlight. And they were filled with ciphers, these cryptic messages, almost like he was challenging the world to figure him out.
Okay, so about those letters, we've all seen the symbol, the creepy circle with the crosshairs. What about the actual words? What was he trying to say?
A lot of it was straightforward, bragging about his killings, mocking the police, even signing off one letter with a score, Zodiac equals 10, SFPD equals 0, a straight-up taunt, designed to scare people and show he was in control.
Wow, it's like he was playing a game. These murders were just points in some twisted competition.
Absolutely. And the game took an even darker turn when he threatened to target school children. He even sent a detailed plan for attacking a school bus. It thankfully never happened, but the Bay Area was gripped with fear.
I can't imagine the terror parents must felt. Everyone was a target. That's a whole other level of fear. Seems like he really wanted the attention. Was that the main goal of these letters, just to spread fear?
That was a big part of it, no doubt. But I think there was also a need for control, you know? He was writing his own story, crafting his image for the media, making sure everyone knew he was the one pulling the strings. Classic narcissism. And then there were the ciphers, 4 in total, each one a complex puzzle, almost like he was taunting everyone. He even claimed one of them held his identity, the key to finding him.
Talk about a complex case, right? What kind of codes were these ciphers?
Substitution ciphers, basically. Letters or symbols are swapped out for others. The first one was sent with those initial letters, and it was actually cracked fairly quickly. By an unlikely pair, really.
Oh, yeah. Who was it? Some secret government agency?
Nope, a school teacher and his wife, just in their living room, amateur code breakers, and they figured it out in like a week.
Wow. Dedicated.
Yeah.
So what did the message say? What was revealed?
Well, it was disturbing, to say the least. He talked about liking to kill, you know, and collecting slaves for the afterlife. Didn't give up his name or anything, but gave us a peek inside his mind. Creepy stuff.
So, 1 cipher down, 3 to go. What about the others?
The others, well, they haven't been cracked. Still a mystery, including the one that he said had his name. Hard to believe, right? The key to the whole case could be hidden in those messages.
Yeah, it's wild. Imagine being the investigators, knowing the answers might be right there, just locked away. But while everyone was trying to figure out the codes, the Zodiac was still out there.
Oh, yeah. He wasn't just sending letters and playing mind games. September 27th, 1969, he attacks again. This time, Lake Berryessa, another isolated spot.
Another one. So was it another couple?
Yep. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, college students, they were having a picnic. A man walks up to them, wearing that executioner hood, says he's an escaped convict, ties them up with clothesline he had already cut.
Clothesline already cut. Sounds
Sure.
planned out, like he'd been thinking about this.
Right. That's what makes the Zodiac so scary. Organized, methodical, but totally obsessed with control and being famous. So he ties them up, then stabs them both brutally. Cecilia died from her wounds, but Brian, he lived.
So glad he survived. Did he give any more details about what the attacker looked like?
He did, and that led to the police sketch we all know now, the one with the hooded figure. That sketch is practically as famous as the Zodiac symbol.
It's a chilling image. But the hood, that seems risky, right? Trying to stay hidden, but wearing something that makes you stand out.
You'd think so. But that's the thing with the Zodiac. He was smart, careful, but he needed the attention. He wanted to be seen as this mastermind. And that need, it kind of took over because he wasn't done yet. Just a few weeks later, he attacks in San Francisco itself.
Whoa, from quiet spots to a busy city. Big change. What happened?
October 11th, he shoots and kills Paul Stein, a taxi driver. It was in the Presidio Heights neighborhood. Witnesses saw him wiping down the cab, then just walking away calmly, like nothing happened.
Wiping down the cab, staying calm. Almost scarier than the actual murder, you know?
Yeah.
Like he had it all under control.
Totally. And just to rub it in, he sends a piece of Stein's shirt to the San Francisco Chronicle, blood-soaked, of course, along with a letter taking credit for the murder, bolder with every attack.
They must have caught him after that, right?
Oh.
Witnesses, maybe fingerprints.
Nope, he got away. They almost had him. 2 officers stopped a guy who looked like the sketch, but there was a mix-up about his race, and they let him go. Imagine that. They might have had him right there.
Unbelievable. What happened after that? Did the attacks just stop?
Not completely. He kept sending letters, some with those crazy ciphers, others claiming even more victims. One letter, he actually said he'd killed 37 people.
37. That many. Are there any other victims that could be his?
A few that stand out. One is Shuri Jo Bates. She was murdered back in 1966 in Riverside, California, before the first confirmed attack, actually.
So maybe years before all the Bay Area stuff.
Yeah.
Why do they think she's connected?
Her murder, it was a stabbing, very brutal, and it's similar to the other Zodiac attacks. Plus, a letter was sent to the police and a newspaper, handwritten, claiming responsibility. And the handwriting looks a lot like the Zodiac's. And to make things even weirder, in 1971, he sent a letter to the LA Times specifically saying Bates was one of his victims.
Wow, big connection. Pushes the timeline way back. Any other possible victims?
Donna Lass. She disappeared in 1970. Nurse in South Lake Tahoe vanished without a trace. What makes this case interesting is a postcard that was sent to Paul Avery, a journalist who was covering the Zodiac case. It was this weird collage of travel ads, and it said, "Sought victim 12.
Sought victim 12, yeah. Sounds like something out of one of his letters. Do they think she was a Zodiac victim?
Some investigators do. Timing and location line up, plus that postcard, but no proof the postcard was actually from him, and her case is still unsolved.
So confirmed victims, possible victims, weird letters, ciphers. Did the police ever have any real suspects?
They did. One guy in particular, Arthur Lee Allen, he became a prime suspect. Lots of circumstantial evidence against him.
Okay, let's hear about Arthur Lee Allen. Why was he a suspect?
Well, for one, he owned a Zodiac watch. Not a smoking gun, but interesting. More importantly, he lived in Vallejo, close to some of the crime scenes. He even worked near where Darlene Ferrin lived.
Okay, yeah, red flags for sure. What else?
He matched the descriptions given by some witnesses, and they might have found a fingerprint of his on one of the letters. And get this, Michael Mageau, the guy who survived the July 4th attack, he picked Allen out of a lineup.
Wow, okay. So was he charged?
Nope, never charged. The case against him had some holes, handwriting didn't match, and later on, when they did DNA testing, it ruled him out.
So close. If not Allen, who was it?
That's the million-dollar question. But in 2021, a new name popped up, Gary Francis Post.
Right, Post. I've heard of him. Wasn't there something about his name being hidden in one of the ciphers?
Yeah, that's what a team of independent investigators are saying. They think if you remove some letters from his full name in a certain way, it spells out a hidden message in one of the unsolved ciphers.
And there were photos of him that matched the Zodiac, right?
That too. They say photos from his darkroom show scars on his forehead. Could be the scars a witness described.
So case closed then. They say it's post.
Well, not quite. The team was convinced, but officially the FBI and the police haven't named him as the Zodiac.
Okay, so the mystery continues. What about the other ciphers? Any progress there?
Actually, yeah. In December 2020, the 340-character cipher, the second one he sent, was finally cracked. Over 50 years later.
No way. After all that time, what did it say?
Mostly taunting. Said he wasn't afraid to die and that he liked killing, but still no clues to his real name.
Wow, like he wanted to get caught, but also loved the fact that he was always ahead of everyone.
Exactly. And then suddenly, everything stopped.
Just like that. Gone silent.
Last confirmed communication was 1974, a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle praising the movie The Exorcist. Weird, right? And after that, nothing.
So bizarre. Did he die, go to prison for something else, or did he just decide he was done?
No one knows. But his final letter, it ended with one last score. Me = 37, SFPD = 0. A final message, leaving everyone with terror and questions.
Crazy, right? All this time later, and we still don't know who the Zodiac was. He's like a ghost story. But even though we might not ever know his name, we can learn about him through what he did. So what can you tell us about what makes a killer like the Zodiac tick?
Well, I have to be careful here. Can't give a diagnosis without a proper evaluation, right? But looking at his behavior, there are definitely some patterns, things we see with certain personality disorders, especially narcissism and antisocial personality disorder.
So meeting all that attention, not caring about others, all that fits.
Totally. The Zodiac, he wanted to be famous. Wasn't enough to just commit the crimes. He needed everyone to know it was him. The letters, the ciphers, keeping score, all that. It was all to make himself feel powerful and in control.
And the victims, they seem so random. Like he didn't know them. Does that mean he just didn't care about other people?
That's a big part of antisocial personality disorder, yeah. No regard for the rights or feelings of others. Manipulative, deceitful, impulsive, no remorse.
It's just so scary. Someone that messed up living among us, maybe they seem totally normal.
And that's what makes this case so unsettling. The Zodiac wasn't some monster hiding in the shadows. He was out there, going unnoticed. Which means he had to be smart, cunning. Really frightening.
Like he knew how to fool people, blend in, seem harmless.
Right. That ability to blend in, to hide his dark side, that's classic psychopath. They can be charming, charismatic, totally normal on the outside. But inside, well, who knows what's going on?
Makes you wonder, right? How many more Zodiacs are out there, hiding in plain sight?
Yeah, that's what keeps investigators up at night. This case, it shows how hard it is to find these people, these chameleons.
We've been focusing on the dark stuff, but there's also the puzzle aspect, the codes, the ciphers. Tell me more about those.
They were pretty complex, even for experts. Substitution ciphers, homophonic substitution, even a cipher based on the Zodiac's symbol itself.
Like he was challenging us, right? Daring us to break the code. And one of them, supposedly, has his real name in it.
Imagine if we could crack that one. It could be the answer to everything. But so far, no luck, even with all the experts and people trying to solve it at home.
Some mysteries, huh? Maybe they just can't be solved.
True, but that doesn't mean we should give up. Technology keeps getting better. People are still working on this case. New evidence could show up anytime. Who knows? Maybe those other ciphers will be solved. Maybe we'll finally know who the Zodiac was.
Here's hoping. Well, this has been an awesome deep dive into one of the biggest mysteries out there, the Zodiac Killer. A name that makes you think about fear and fascination and all those unanswered questions.
Sure, it makes you think about the dark side of humanity, and those mysteries that just won't go away.
Well, thanks for joining us for our very first Unsolved episode here on Crime 11. We'll be back with another case soon. Until then, stay curious. And maybe sleep with the lights on, just in case.